Welcome to the Literally First Class podcast, where I will teach you how to overcome anxiety and achieve somatic success. I'm your host, Keri Ford. I'm a somatic success and holistic life coach here to bring humor, insight, and wisdom to the modern day woman that wants to feel alive in her daily life. You ready? Come on, I saved you a seat in first class. Fuck it, I already share so much of my life online. What is one more thing? So the one thing that I want to share with you today may help you with future decisions. It may give you some insight into anything that you have been contemplating around this specific topic. And maybe it'll even deter you from getting this thing so that you have to make this decision later on anyway. So what I'm talking about is explant surgery from breast implants. Back in 2017, I had 2 babies at this point. I was done for the foreseeable future having children. And what I was left with after breastfeeding was really sad. And I'm just going to go all the way there with this episode. So if this might be triggering for people that have any body dysmorphia, they might have if they have any body issues, or if you don't want to hear any technicals about surgeries, this is an episode you may want to use a little discretion with. That being said, after having kids and all the many years I spent fluctuating in weight gain and weight loss through an eating disorder, I was anorexic in college, those of you that don't know, and then I continued to have really deeply seated patterns of disordered eating well into my 20s, and I'm going to go as far as to say that I likely had this even while I was competing in fitness competitions and doing fitness modeling, but it was packaged with a prettier bow. And the prettier bow was, oh, well, this is just discipline and motivation and me pushing my body. And yes, it was all of those things. And at the same time, I was scared of bananas and the sugar in those. And one time, a waiter brought me oatmeal that was on a tray, and apparently the creamer from the coffee had spilled a little bit into the oatmeal. Well, I thought the oatmeal had been made with milk, and I started to cry. And that's when you know there is probably something deeper going on, where I am seeking ultimate control and I'm weighing everything that goes into my body. Yes, is there something really powerful and amazing about being able to be fully committed and disciplined and know that you can do anything you set your mind to? Absolutely. But my experience with all or nothing mentality, with perfectionism, and really to the point of where I didn't even notice it was becoming somewhat masochistic, was my own personal journey. So for me, my healing and my journey has been in allowing and surrendering and entrusting to basically reclaim my own inner power again, versus following a plan to the umpteenth T and hating myself skinny and doing this in a way that was actually really harmful. So fast forward, my hormones, as you can imagine, were all over the map. It wasn't something I was having monitored while I was competing in fitness competitions. I was all natural, by the way. I had no implants. I had no surgeries. I was not taking any drugs for bodybuilding. And yet I'm on stage with people that are not all natural. That's just, that's just the fact. There were many women that had implants. I was probably the minority. And so photo shoots and on stage, you weren't a competitive package if you didn't have implants, because symmetry and aesthetics and all of these subjective opinions that go into how people were winning. Anyway, fast forward, my hormones are fucked up. And I didn't know it, but I should have known it, because at the last show I did in 2012, my spray tan was being broken down and metabolized by my body. So much so that I looked like a faux finish wall. Sponge painting, that used to be like a thing. My body looked like marbleized because my body started to break down the sugars in the spray tan. That's how carb depleted I was. My adrenals seemed to be fine. I had some digestion issues like IBS that would come and go, which I think was sort of self-induced by the amount of stress and pressure I was putting on myself. And my body was just holding on to weight and inflammation because it was under stress. Now knowing what I know now, I get it. Like I fucking get it. And so my body's breaking down this spray tan. I look like a faux finish wall. I complete that fitness competition and I just feel burnt out. Honestly, I was like, I'm done with this for a while. I can't even compete with the people on stage and I'm done. Like I've put everything into this. And so I took a step back. I also decided at that time with my then husband that we were going to start a family. So I go ahead, I get pregnant and my progesterone is low and I miscarry my first child. I was very early. It was maybe 6 or 7 weeks. You know, when we first went in, there was a heartbeat, and then we went back a couple weeks later, there was no heartbeat. And then I had a DNC because that tissue was not passing naturally. And so instead of waiting, which has its own set of, complications, if you will, I didn't wait and I had the DNC. And that was traumatic for me because the idea of going under and having someone be all up in your business and be removing this child, it was really sad. And there was deep grief there. And I had a lot of feelings, as you can imagine, about it. I felt powerless. I felt heavy with grief and loss. I felt confused. I felt scared. Can my body even have a baby and a healthy baby at that? Will I have complications with getting pregnant? And did I fuck my body up? Did I damage it beyond repair by competing in fitness competitions? Or was this an inner dashboard problem? Or have I always had low progesterone or other issues going on? Like I just had so many questions. And so I went on to have a healthy pregnancy not long after. And then I had a second baby. And I have 2 beautiful children, and I had no complications with either of them, although I did have an emergency C-section with my second. But fast forward, all of this weight gain and weight loss to the extremes, like the extremes. I was a 00 going into college, just very naturally petite. I'm 5 feet tall for those of you that don't know. Yes, I have a big presence. And many people that meet me in person, they're like, holy shit, I thought you would be so much taller. You seem so much bigger online. But I'm only 5 feet tall. And I went into college at a 00. And within the first year, I was around a size 6. And I think at one point at my largest, again, fluctuating, I was a size 8. That was a huge fluctuation for my body and what I had always been used to being at. I mean, I needed a whole new wardrobe. You do. Going from a 00 to a size 8, you need a whole entire different wardrobe. Plus, I just felt lethargic. I felt heavy. I did not feel energetic or healthy or strong in my body. And that's what triggered me to sign up and do a fitness competition, coupled with my dad undergoing an angioplasty at a very young age. I think he was under 50. And I was like, I don't want to be that old when I have to figure out how to eat right and get this together. Like I didn't want that to be my future. And so it came from great intentions. But wild fluctuations in weight can only impact your skin. And you know that when you fill out and then you lose weight, it deflates the skin if the skin is stretched out. And so I had a lot of extra skin after many years of dieting, many years of extremes, and the many years of babies and breastfeeding. So I was measuring at a C cup of skin with an A cup of tissue. I really didn't have much of a choice other than to have a lift if I was going to do surgery. Of course, I had a choice whether or not to do the surgery. I chose I wanted a surgery. The reason was a few things. Aesthetically, I didn't feel great about how I looked. But also, from a functional standpoint, I couldn't even wear a bra without skin sort of melting out of it. I don't know how to describe it other than I would bend over in a bra and the skin would sort of ooze out from the top of the cup. And then I would have kind of a double boob or like a line. So, you could say, oh, wear a push-up bra, but what happens when the push-up part pushes into the skin and now you've got like these 2 bumps, 2 bubbles. And then not only that, it won't stay in the cup. My breast tissue I didn't have it. And so I was working out and I got back to my pre-baby weight and I got into a good fit, strong, healthy place where I was intuitively eating and really listening to my body. And yet I can't really do anything about stretched skin. So I knew at least at the very least, I was going to have a breast lift. When I went in for a consultation for plastic surgery, the idea was I would have a lollipop lift. And this is where they make an incision around the nipple to the base of the nipple, and then they go straight down to the base of the breast. And so it looks like a lollipop, right? That circle around the nipple, and then from the base of the nipple to the base of the breast. And then they cut out the extra skin and they bring it together. I think there was also a possibility of having what's called an anchor incision, where they go beneath the lollipop stick and they go to either side of the breast to pull the skin tighter and together as they move the nipple up. So I knew that that was at a minimum what I was going to go in and get. I didn't think about a fat transfer. In fact, I can't even recall that being an option that was presented to me, but I knew I wanted the tissue on the upper part of the breast to be, and I'm sure there's a technical name for this, but I wanted that to be fuller. I wanted the tissue to be back on the top of my breast, but I did not have that. I barely had any tissue as it was. And so the option that I discussed with the plastic surgeon was a lift with an implant. Now, I don't know about you, but even as recent as 6-7 years ago when I got these implants in, I was under the impression that you get breast implant illness in two ways. One is your body just rejects a foreign object. It recognizes there's a foreign object in the body and it rejects it. And the other is that the implant ruptures, like it breaks within the body and then you have a silicone leak. What I did not know that I know now is that silicone still leaches from the actual breast implant, even if it's intact, which then triggers a natural response in the immune system, which can come out with a whole onset of neurological issues and other seemingly disconnected but connected physical symptoms. So, I have had breast implants since 2017. They're bigger than what I wanted. Again, I'm 5 feet. Now I measure at a double D. And I swear they have grown, which is kind of crazy. Sure, I've had some slight weight fluctuations, but we're talking 4 or 5 pounds, not a lot of weight. And they just feel too big. They are a gummy silicone implant. They are the Mentor implant brand, and they are under the muscle. Here's also what I didn't know that I know now, which is, and this makes so much sense. This is like common sense now that I think about it. But when the implant is under the muscle and you are of a petite stature like myself, there's only so much space in the body, in the cavity of the chest for things to go. And so while you know there's a risk of complications of, again, getting implants, period, what you don't think about is if they're too big for your frame, that it could cause an issue with not enough space in the chest cavity. So simultaneously throughout all of this, I'm pretty active, right? I've always been active. I'm an ex-gymnast. I'm an ex-dancer. I was a fitness competitor. I'm a spin instructor, group fitness, all the things. I used to run Jillian Michaels boot camps out of LA with a gym that was in partnership with her. And so I know fitness. In fact, I'm a certified personal trainer and I have been since 2008. So I know all the things to do. I have a strong foothold in wellness and in knowing a lot of these things. So I'm lifting, I'm working out through my pregnancies, in between my pregnancies. And so in between my pregnancies, my 2 children, they're like 21 months apart, they're super close. In between them, I was lifting and I did an overhead press with a barbell. And I probably had still a little bit of the relaxin, which is the hormone in the body that shows up during pregnancy that helps the body relax and soften so that you can make room through the hips and the birth canal to have a child. Now, this can still be in your body even postpartum, not to the degree usually that you are at when you're pregnant. So anyway, things can still be kind of moving around. You have to be really careful when you're lifting, especially if you're going and lifting heavy. So I don't know if it was that attributed to this, but I injured my AC joint in my left shoulder, had a slight tear, felt a lot of pain, and then it felt like it mostly recovered, but I had some reminders, some pain. I had some limitations in terms of range of motion, and I couldn't lift as heavy as I wanted. And also I was just being really careful and safe with my body. I was just fully listening. So I started going to the chiropractor again, and again, doing all of the things I know for self-care and rehabilitation. I'm also doing band work, rehab with external rotation, internal rotation, building up the strength in and around the muscles of the shoulder. So all the right things. Now that I think about it though, that pain mostly went away, but then just a year and a half, 2 years later, I got implants. And that's when the pain started again. I never put two and two together until 2 weeks ago. And here's what I put together. I have had, since the implants, this, I don't want to say burning sensation because that feels strong, but a mild burning and discomfort sensation in my left arm. I also have had decreased, where I first noticed it was a decreased grip in my left hand. And the way I noticed this is as an ex-gymnast, I went to go do like monkey bars or something silly on a playground that normally in the past has never been an issue for me. And my hand just let go. And I thought, oh, that's weird. Wow, I really injured my shoulder. I really must have done something. And my hand just let go. So I started using Versa grips for deadlifts, which are, a grip that you can use that has a rubber grip to help you hold heavier weights, because I was like, my body can lift heavier weight, but my grip can't hold it. So that was something I was tuned into. And then I had decreased sensation specifically in my pinky and my ring finger of my left hand. So I had a nerve test done and they were like, yep, sure enough, you have decreased connectivity in those nerves. That's kind of as far as it went. And we're talking several years ago now. And so in the process of going through these Explant consultations, I spoke to somebody and I had this moment where I felt so seen. I felt so understood, and I finally had words to what I had been experiencing. It was like all the synapses in my brain went off at the same time. And so there's a lot here, and I'm trying to figure out where I want to go next with this conversation. But where I want to go next actually is I want to talk about what he shared with me that was so pivotal. And then I want to share with you why I've even been exploring explant surgery to begin with, because it wasn't this actually that tipped me off. So, okay, I've got this, reduced grip in my left hand, reduced feeling, slight numb and tingling, which at this point has become so normal, I don't really notice it much. But what I do notice is the really crazy radiating pain I constantly have in the left side of my neck. And here I'm thinking, man, I really fucked myself up with this injury years ago. But it should not be lasting this long. Now, mind you, I still work out. I still have limited range of motion over my head. I'm very mindful of it. But when you look at a picture of me, my neck pulls slightly to the left. Now, what this guy said to me is like common sense now that I think about it, but also like, oh my God, like how have I never connected the dots, but how has no one else ever connected the dots, especially like going to the doctor and chiropractor and stuff. Here's what he said. He said, what you're describing is a brachial plexus injury, which is the nerve branch that goes down the left arm. And so he asked me a whole bunch of other questions, which is like, how large are the implants? Are they on top of or under the muscle? So they're under the muscle and they're larger than my frame. Those are the two key things to keep in mind here. Why? Because when there's not enough space and the muscle only can stretch so far, what does it do? It presses down on the nerve and it impinges the nerve. So I have been living with this crazy pain down the left side of my arm, thinking it's been an injury from a lifting incident years ago, when in fact, it's a pain that won't go away because it's being caused by my implants, the implants being too large. Now, this is not actually what had me seek out the explant surgery because I didn't even think about the fact that they had been connected. So if you Google brachial plexus injury or TOS, you'll find more information about this. So what had me go and seek out explant surgery is recurring migraines. Now, I know all the things in terms of what to do. And I don't just know what to do, I do them. So my spiritual hygiene practice is on point. I meet regularly with a somatic mentor. I do the nervous system work that I know releases and moves through emotions that are stuck in the body. I also am active when I don't have a migraine. So I go to the gym, I lift, I eat a mostly gluten-free and very low sugar diet. Is there room for improvement? Sure. But I also don't want to completely eliminate certain food groups from my diet because I don't want to trigger disordered eating patterns again. So I'm very mindful to eat intuitively as well, which sometimes looks like I don't, no gluten and no sugar and being a little bit more dialed in. I've even given up alcohol, thinking maybe these migraines were triggered by alcohol. So what I've come to realize is that not only is my body completely rejecting alcohol, which is fine, and I'm okay to give that up. I don't have a drinking problem, but do I want to give up alcohol because I just feel better not drinking it? Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a strong correlation, I think, to my quality of sleep, my quality of energy, and just my overall energy, period, when I don't drink. So yeah, totally. But I also noticed that these migraines were coming no matter what. So it was like sometimes it was with my cycle, sometimes it wasn't. Sometimes it was when I drank, sometimes it wasn't. And so I'm like, this is very interesting. And I'm looking at the foods I'm eating and I'm doing these little okay, what happens if I remove this from my diet and I play with that? What happens when I go to bed earlier and sleep longer? Let's play with that. And I'm exploring all these things as a wellness expert that I know to do. And so I'm doing all the things. I'm meditating, getting morning light, getting sunlight, taking supplements, drinking water. Again, all the things that I know to do right. And yet these migraines are becoming more persistent. And sometimes they last 3 days. And so I'm asking my body, because, my body, I always direct clients back to this. What does your body say? It is so wise. And I'm asking myself, am I perimenopausal? Is this a hormone thing? Hormones are fine. I get my labs back. Everything's fine. But my body's like, nope, not it. You're too young. I'm only 39. Okay. Is this related to alcohol? No, but could I give it up? Yeah, that feels good to me. What's going on here? Is this my implants? My body was like, yup, get these things out. And my friend Karenna said it best when she and I were talking about this. And she goes, I'm just at a certain point now where I feel like these no longer belong to me. But, I'll go a step further and just say that our body knows that they never belonged at all. So yes, I do think our body can reject a foreign object. But beyond that, I did not know that silicone leaches, even when the implant is intact, into the body, over 40 microtoxins into the bloodstream. And then you get physical symptoms on top of it. So here's the thing that had me look at explant surgery to begin with. It was the migraines. But this brachial plexus injury causes the migraines. Why? Because it's pulling my neck. Things are out of alignment and it's creating this pressure all the way up and all the way down. So that's a huge part. Literally, the implants are just too big for my body under the muscle. But on top of that, my guess is that a lot of the tiredness I'm experiencing, the brain fog, and the migraines are also associated to probably the microtoxins in my body that are slowly being leached into my bloodstream, and I didn't even know it. So it's important for me to get these out because your body knows what belongs and what doesn't, right? And so that's important for my health. And also doing the somatic work and doing all the things and asking myself, am I stressed? I mean, I help people with this for a living. I help them manage what they have better. I'm like, no, I am not more stressed than I normally am. And we all need healthy levels of stress. It helps create resiliency, right? We all will have stress. I'm a mom, I'm an entrepreneur. There's always going to be stress. But I know that my ability to metabolize it and manage it is very high now. I did not have that experience previously where my stress resistance was low and I was often operating from anxiety. That does not feel like what's happening here. And so really sifting through and processing and asking my body these questions has been so important. And then to have this explant consultation that just, brought me to some crazy realizations. I'm like, of course, that makes so much sense. I finally have the words for what I've been experiencing this whole time. And I've been operating under the impression that this was related to an injury. So I share all this because, of course, it's not lost on me that this is an unbecoming of so many things that we buy into in terms of beauty standards. And also this sense of worth. I'd be lying if I told you I didn't love my breast implants, that I didn't love the fact that I got to just change my body and play God because I got to say, hey, I'm just going to do this and buy that and put it in, and I can change it. It's kind of like real life Photoshop and this immediate gratification that comes with it. But I'm not the woman that chose to have these implants anymore. I don't need them. I'm no longer only valuable for how I look. My worth is not in how I appear. My worth is inherently in me. It's in who I be just by existing. And I fully belong to myself, even without the implants. In fact, I can't wait to have these things out because now I'm actually going to be able to button a damn shirt. Do you know how frustrating it is to try to buy a button-down shirt that fits the length of your arm, but there is no way in God's green earth that thing is going to fucking button? Like, oh my gosh. Or to wear like a low plunge thing and just have this like sexy breastbone instead of all the things hanging out and know that that's everything people are looking at. So it's been a really healing journey for me to arrive here. And I'm sure there's going to be grief that comes up. I mean, these are absolutely first world problems, and I'm extremely aware of the privilege in me sharing this, and the privilege that's alive here right now in the sharing of this, shall I say, and all of the identity that comes with who we think we need to look like and what we think sexy looks like, and how implants, many of us buy into that feeling like I matter. I matter because I am sexy and I've found the eternal, way to stay young looking and vibrant. And, I just feel like I'm in such a different place now. And so it isn't lost on me, like I mentioned, that this is one of the last things in the unbecoming, in the getting back to me and how beautiful that is. Even right now, it brings up emotion because, damn, so many of us buy into this. And in many ways, I feel this simultaneous celebration that we as women have the ability to show up and own all of our sensuality and sexiness with or without implants in whatever way that looks and feels for you. And also this like deep sadness that so many of us have kind of bought into this. And there's this Facebook group I joined in doing some research. It has 183,000 women in it that are seeking to get their implants out because of suspected breast implant illness. That's crazy. That's crazy. And now there's almost this like, I think about it in this way, there's like this sisterhood that you become part of that you never really wanted to sign up for, which is every woman that has gotten implants and then removed them and has this scar from left to right under her breast. And you're forever scarred with that. Not every doctor, of course, does that incision, but many do. And you're left with a reminder and a scar of the removal of these. It's just so interesting. I also watched the documentary called Explant. Wow, that was powerful. How are we allowed to put these in bodies, let alone women's bodies? I don't know how we are allowed to do that, knowing what we know about the silicone leaking in the body from the minute they're put in. Just, that's crazy to me that this has been signed off on to put into people's bodies. All for what? To do something with silicone factories that were sitting there post-war that needed to make money. And to do it in a way that values even less the female body. It's just wild. So I have a lot of feelings about getting them out. I guess the good and the bad news is that I'm on a wait list that has a 20-month wait list. That's crazy. That is also crazy. This man is one of 7 breast explant specialists in the United States, which means this is the only thing he does full time, is help women regain their health back, help women regain the self-love for them, for themselves. And not that you can't love yourself with implants, but learning how to love yourself without them, learning how to love yourself in a way that says you don't need them. Again, no shade on implants. I have loved mine, and I probably wouldn't even think about getting them out if they weren't a little too big and if I wasn't in pain, right? If I'm just being honest, like, I love having them. I love the way they look in most cases. I think, again, if I aesthetically could reduce them, that would be ideal and I could keep them, but that's just not what my body's telling me right now. So this man has a 20-month wait list. He works on a lot of women that are in the public eye, and I have some time, right? I have some time to work through things. I'm also manifesting that my surgery will happen freakishly fast because my neck really does hurt, and I can't heal foreign objects in my body, right? I can't heal something that's in my body that just needs to come out from like a physiological standpoint. My body is too small, the implants are too big, it's impinging on the nerve. So I'm in pain a lot. And with that nerve issue comes the migraines. And so I'm ready to get them out. Physically, emotionally, that's a different story. I have some things that I'm working through and things that will come up during and after, I am sure. And so I'm grateful for the wait list right now. And I am manifesting a frequency that I'm going to have them out sooner. So this is like a super, super vulnerable share. I never thought I'd be talking about my boobs on a podcast. I mean, again, fuck it. I talk about everything else on here. And I kind of feel stupid for having gotten them at all because I didn't know then what I know now. And I think I would have opted to not have them. I think I still would have had a surgery, which looked like a lift with a fat transfer, using your own body fat to transfer a little here and put it up here by my breast. But I wouldn't have put an implant in. I would have exercised the power of the pause a little bit longer. I would have done more research, and I would have listened, I think, to the little nudging voice in the back of my mind that knew there was a possibility that these could cause complications. Like they say now, at least, these are 10-year devices. They're not meant to be lifetime devices. So the minute you have breast implant surgery, you are also signing up for any surgery thereafter every 10 years for the rest of your life, whether you get them replaced or whether you get them removed. They were never intended, that particular set, to stay in the body. And here's one of the reasons why. Our body runs at 98.6 degrees all of the time. What am I saying? It operates at 98.6 degrees all of the time. And so when you have these breast implants in your body all of the time, then they start to melt. That's what they told me on this consultation. I'm like, that's crazy. I did not know they essentially start to melt and break down. 10 years at a hot temperature, that kind of makes sense, doesn't it? Like, the amount of common sense here that I'm like, okay, that's wild. And also, I didn't know that. I did not know that. So I don't know if you're in this boat. I don't know if you're thinking about getting implants or you're thinking about getting an explant, or you have them and there are no issues, but part of you feels like, man, these just don't feel like they belong to me anymore. Maybe do some research. Maybe don't get the implants. Maybe get a fat transfer. Maybe get an explant. Whatever you do what feels the healthiest and the most loving for you. I'm definitely not here to judge. I'm just here to share with you my personal experience with breast implants and now with my upcoming breast explant surgery. I am scared. What if I'm deformed? What if they look worse than before I got them? What if I don't feel sexy? What if I don't feel attractive? What if there's a complication? I have to go back for another surgery. I do not want another surgery. So I have, of course, all of these very natural fears and doubts that are coming up, and I'm just choosing to sit in the discomfort of that, but also know that explant surgery is the right surgery for me. So maybe this lands for you, maybe it doesn't. I'm certainly not a breast implant or explant expert. I'm just simply a woman on the other side of a mic sharing her story. And if it finds you, amazing. So, yeah, I would love if you would share with me if this resonated for you. I would love to also set a boundary, at least during this time while I am still doing my own work around it, still very much processing and haven't fully gone through this myself. If you have horror stories about explant surgery, I would prefer if you keep those to yourself. Sometimes people think that when there's an open door for communication, they want to share all of the things that they've heard and all the worst case scenarios and all the complications. And I know this because I've been pregnant, and I feel like when you are pregnant, everyone thinks it gives them like the right of way and the rite of passage to just share with you their worst birth stories in the world. And you're like horrified by the time you get into your own labor. So I would love to create a boundary that I would love to hear positive stories. I would love to hear if this landed for you. I would love to hear anyone you know that has gone through this, or you yourself that have benefited on the other end. And I do not welcome open DM policy or open comments on this because, like I said, I'm a woman, a human on the other side of this mic walking through this myself. And I'm choosing to share this, and it's super vulnerable and it's super alive for me right now. So, but I'm doing that because you're my people. And if this can help somebody, or they can put the pieces together faster than I did, even when I'm a wellness expert, like, wow, how cool is that? So yeah, I'll see you on the next episode, but I appreciate your time and your presence and listening. And if you find value in this podcast, please share and subscribe. I'll see you inside the next one.
I hope you enjoyed your flight, and I'll see you on board again soon.
Seriously though, thanks for listening. If you're ready to take this work deeper and upgrade your mind, I want to invite you to join us inside my Millionaire Mindset program. This is where you'll start using my guided meditations to help you overcome anxiety and experience even more abundance. When you join, you'll have access to my entire audio library. Head over to elevatewithkeri.com and we'll see you inside.